I got to interview the man behind the Curse of the Golden Wrench and the Golden Charity. WINGSPAN back in 2010 received the Golden Wrench as a promotional item from the Engineer Update. He quickly realized that he wanted to rid himself of the wrench and explain some of the controversy surrounding it.
I watched your videos about this, or your last video. It's like, I wouldn't say it was it's not like I actually believed it was cursed. I was just trying to make a funny post at the time. You know, I think most people were just interested in the charity aspect of it.
WINGSPAN goes on to talk about some of the controversy surrounding the wrenches that probably led to some of his distaste for it.
You know, I don't know if you know this, but there was like a lot of backlash to this event when it first came out.
Really?
Well, okay, just keep in mind, this is 12 years ago, right? So we got to go all the way back. This is before people were buying and selling hats. This is before you could even there was a Steam marketplace, right?
Yeah.
And this was just before the Engineer Update and all that stuff. They had just started adding the random drop items to the game. Like you get scrap metal and whatever, and the first round hats and all that stuff. So it was very early in that. So when the wrench thing happened and they announced, 100 people are going to randomly get this item and they can't be traded and they'll never be released and blah, 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 blah. People were very, very mad. Like everyone was mad about this. Like Valve was like, they put all this energy and effort into it. They made this big landing page. They put everyone's names, including mine. They put everyone's names who got it. And they thought everyone was going to be super happy. But really, most people were really pissed about this. And I don't know, did you find that news story? God, what's that guy's name? Frag something? About that hacker who actually figured out how to predict the drops?
I've seen some bits of it and a little bit of the controversy that came from that. Yeah.
So that was even people were more mad because Valve's like, it's random, totally random. It's random who gets it. And I forgot which wrench he got, but he had done some algorithm and figured out when they were going to drop it. It wasn't random. It was happening at certain times if you crafted. So he got one and he got 3 of his friends' wrenches like in a row. And then he posted this whole thing about here. It's not random, guys. Here's the algorithm. If you want wrenches 70 through 100, here's when they're going to drop. And they banned him and they changed the algorithm. So the whole community was super pissed about this update. And I was like, well, I got this thing. I thought, it's kind of cool. But at the same time, it seems like it's not actually making anyone happy. It's not making me happy. It's not making the community happy. It's just breeding terrible ill will. So I was like, well, is there any way I can use this thing other than making like 1 or 2 funny videos, which I did, but just videos, compilations of turning people into gold and whatever. But yeah, is there anything I could do? And I was like, maybe I could run some kind of weird fundraiser or something,
Yeah. Probably like one of the first people to actually start, I know you didn't directly profit off of it, but, turning that virtual item into real money.
Yeah, that it really is. And that's just so funny. Like I think back to like nowadays, all this stuff seems like normal, right?
Yeah.
Like running these kind of fundraisers. Like there was basically no live streaming when we did this. Like I forgot what stuff we used, but it was crazy back then. And like, even when we, for a while, this charity that we ran was one of the top 3 or 4, I believe, donations to Child's Play charity ever at the time.
Wow.
Like it was, but you know what I'm saying? Like this wasn't a thing back then to like run some gaming event and raise money from people and donate it to a charity. Like that never really happened. It happened a couple of times, There was that, I don't remember if that desert bus thing was happening yet or not. But, all those things were really early on. This was like the frontier of wild, crazy, and people running scams too, which is unfortunate. But
yeah, but kind of like you said, the intro to finances, especially for video games and virtual things.
Yeah.
Was there any reason you chose Child's Play, or was that just one that kind of hit home with you, or whatever?
It was a couple reasons. I guess one is I was always a huge fan of Penny Arcade, the comic. The people running it, I just felt like they're a good organization. Secondly, I just thought, again, like I was saying, my mindset was, how do I turn this event that everyone hates in TF2 into something positive? And, I was like, okay, let me pick something I think most people who play TF2 will back without, and I didn't want to start another controversy, right? Like,
yeah.
I pick Red Cross, and people are like, oh, did you know Red Cross actually funds terrorists? Or, I didn't want to get into anything like that. I'm like, everyone loves Penny Arcade, especially during that time period. They're doing good stuff for kids. It's not controversial. Everyone will like it. And I had also reached out to the director of Penny Arcade, the director of Child's Play at the time, and a few other charities to talk to them to ask, hey, if I get some kind of funding, because I was using some kind of app to collect the funds at the time, I'm like, are you guys able to legally accept it? Yes, accept the funds. So I had narrowed it down to like 2 or 3 charities at the time, and they were one of the only ones that said yes, basically.
Okay. So just some of those.
So it was those 3 factors, basically. I liked them. I thought the community would like them, and they were willing to work with me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good cause, you know. I was going through their website, watching some of their videos, just looking through what they do, and it seems like they have some good messages.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I completely forgot. Yeah, when you touched up on my video, I think we went off on a little bit of a tangent. But when you said talking about the curse, when I posted that video, you know, I was trying to talk a little bit about like just the unwanted attention or like that kind of aspect of it, because it's definitely like when you wear those rare items. I don't know how much it was back then because that's when I was a free to play. But like now, you know, a lot of people will try and like ask you for your whatever, you know, just like drop something for them. I wanted to try and explain, you know, that it was more the attention, not like just the curse. But I don't think that really resonated with people.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah. Again, there was nothing. This was like one of the first things like this in TF2 ever. You know?
Yeah.
It was one of the first rare items, you know, those eater buds. Or I don't even remember what the first rare items. Obviously, there's stuff now that's worth way more. But it was nuts. I mean, people were, you know, they're asking me to buy my account. Again, you could not trade it, right?
Yeah.
So people are asking me to buy my account. People are giving me all kinds of threats. People are asking me to trade it to them. When I try to explain I can't, then they would get really mad, you know? So it was... You know, I would dick around on the community servers I played on, and everyone knew I had it there because, you know, I was a regular.
Yeah.
But then every now and then you go in a new game or something, you hit someone with this thing, like, what?
And especially back then, too, you know, probably not as much like footage or content.
No, right.
It, you know?
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, it's like, oh, I look back at the time, my YouTube channel had like 1,000 subs, which 12 years ago was a really big deal, you know?
Yeah.
Like I was one of the top like 5 TF2 people at the time. And now it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this video from 12 years ago has like 15,000 views. It's like a joke. But at the time, you know, me just saying I had the golden wrench was one of the main ways that anyone knew what it even looked like in the game or what it did. You know, me and the other few people who made videos. But, you know, out of 100 people, how many people had software to record things and upload it? That wasn't a thing back then.
Oh, yeah, or even a computer that could, you know, record.
Yeah, not crash.
So when you went out and you started, or you decided on this charity, how did you start recruiting all these people to join you?
I'm trying to remember the exact details. Basically, I decided, yeah, I would do this. Oh, you know what the other thing was? I'm sure you know this, but when you deleted the wrench, I guess it's still true today. If someone deletes a golden wrench, it notifies every single person playing TF2.
Yeah.
Which is weird, which I still don't get why they did. Like, I still don't know why they programmed that into the game. That was something that hacker guy had found out as part of his, you know, digging around.
Yeah, when he deleted that person's.
Yeah, exactly, right. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this, and everyone will know that I didn't lie because there'll be a proof. It's going to send a thing to everyone. And I guess as I started raising money, I was trying to think, like, is there anything I can do to incentivize more people or to keep the momentum going long enough? And I thought, okay, maybe if I set benchmarks, like, oh, if we reach $5,000, we'll do another one. If we reach $6,000, we'll do another one, whatever. And I didn't really think, I thought maybe people would delete it. So I just started, again, it was public. It's still today. There's a public wall that has everyone, whoever got those wrenches. So I just messaged everyone directly on Steam and explained, like, hey, you could look me up. I'm 31. You know, I'm not joking with you. And here's what I'm going to do. Are you in or not? You know, and if you help me out, we're going to raise money for charity, and we're going to, you know, we'll live in infamy and all that stuff. It'll be fun. You
get any negative reactions from any of the wrench owners?
I I feel like I didn't have any outright negative reactions. I had a couple people just be like, "Oh, yeah, no thanks, that's not for me," or "I'm going to keep it." A couple, I will say, significant number of people just told me like, "I don't actually even play TF2." You know, like I just happened to be playing the first like hour of this game ever, and I got this thing, and people said it's a big deal, but I don't care because this game is dumb. You know, like
That's so sad.
it is, yeah, but you think 100 people, right? How many people are like hardcore, like into this game? I mean, with any video game, if you picked 100 random players, right?
Yeah.
So you probably had like 40 people who actually played TF2 a lot, and out of them, and some people also just didn't respond. They're not going to accept a message from a stranger or whatever. A couple of people did reach out to me after the event like started. Once we're like 2 weeks in, and I was getting like news coverage and stuff. They're like, "Oh, I know who you are now. Hey, I'm gonna get back to you," which was cool, and they joined on, and that's good.
What happened with that one wrench that was destroyed outside of the charity?
Oh, like
I think it was number 10.
I'm trying to remember. There were a couple there was actually a few that were destroyed outside. Well, there was the one that got hacked, like you said.
Yeah.
Someone hacked an account, and stole, like someone hacked into someone else's account, deleted it. The hacked one was given back to that person, and then that person, I'm trying to remember his name. I have it written down some 12-year-old blog post somewhere. But then that guy agreed to destroy it again.
That's I think 27.
That's right. I think you're right. That is 27. Yeah, there was one person who meant to do it with us. He wanted to be on board. He or she. I didn't ever talk to these people, only voice or anything.
Yeah.
But anyway, they I think they were on a vacation or family thing, or they just weren't. They were not going to be available during the time we did it. So they just did it on their own later, which is totally fine. And then later there was something. They did give out a couple extra wrenches, like just a small number, 1 or 2, through a Penny Arcade event, I think.
I remember seeing that. One of them was for I can't remember the specific charity.
Right, but yeah, there was some kind of charity event that happened a year or so later where they got 1 or 2 more out there, and I don't remember. Maybe they were destroyed or not, but I don't recall.
Because I see too, some of these say that I think initially you had 7 wrenches that were up to be destroyed. Did you?
Right.
Was that just when it started gaining a bunch of momentum, and that's when the rest of those people decided to hop on?
Yeah, well, it was crazy because again, it's so weird to think about how this worked back then. There was no Reddit. There was no, I was just making forum posts and uploading stuff to my 1,000-person YouTube channel. So you had, I put out the posts, and at first it was just like, okay, whatever. People were telling me I'm dumb on the Steam forums, right? On the Valve forums, and some people said it was cool. And then I was like, you know what? So Valve has their wall of people who got the wrenches, and this made everyone mad. I'm going to make a wall of people who donate more than $10, and that's going to make people jealous. Like, they want to be on this wall. You can be on the bad guy wall or the good guy wall. Like, choose which one, So once I put that up, it started bringing a lot more donations. And once it started getting more donations, it started getting like Kotaku reached out to me, and the Critscast podcast, which was like the big TF2 podcast of the day. And there was that Australian TV show. I started the media. People started emailing me from the media. And again, this was like weird. Like I had my brother was like calling me on the phone and being like, "Did you know there's a clip on TV about you? Did you know?" I'm like, "Oh no, I didn't know that. I was reading IGN, and IGN forums. Everyone's talking about this." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So it really spiraled up fast, and then you saw, I'm sure you've seen by now, but then Valve made their own post about it at a certain point,
which is insane.
And and actually a couple people who I promised to be anonymous at Valve made donations to this as well. So it was, it was a big deal back then.
Oh yeah. Especially massive for a video game, and at a time
massive for a video game at this time period where it's literally just me with me and the 3 people who ran my blog back then, just putting this together. This was not some giant thing.
That's what people need to understand is that time too. Now we look and we see like Uncle Dane has millions of subscribers and stuff like that. 2010 TF2 YouTube was a very different time.
Yeah, this is like, if you're like, can you name some video game influencers? You'd be like, I can't. I don't know. I can name like 8 of them, and maybe I'm one. I don't know. I don't know.
Do you have any different thoughts now that it's been so long since that happened? Like, do you regret it, or do you wish you went about it in a different way?
Yeah, I know. I definitely don't regret it. I actually think back to this time a lot. I feel really proud. I've done a lot of various video game stuff. I run small communities and ran my blog and my YouTube channel all over this time. And I've had lots of various silly adventures, some more famous than others. But I always think back at I'm really glad I did this one, and we had some did something good for real people,
Yeah.
There's lots of stuff that, I made the news for this because I did this in EVE Online, or, we ran this tournament and I got a rank 1. That's great, but it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah.
So, no, I don't regret it. The only thing as far as, thinking back on it, one thing, if we talk about the past again, it's again, when this was starting, it was not a thing there was no microtransactions really. Valve started this. They were one of the first companies that were starting getting cosmetics in the game and paying real money for them. And part of why I wanted to delete this wrench, it wasn't why, but it was kind of more I thought I was happy to do it because people are like, you can't delete this. It's so rare. It's gonna be worth so much. I'm like, this is pixels. This is not real, people. It doesn't matter. If I don't value it, it doesn't matter to me. You guys, whatever. If I want to delete it, the other ones go up in value, whatever. I don't care. But this is dumb. And even today, I just have friends that are trying to grind out something in a game. They're coming into work tired because they were up all night trying to get some item or win some raid. And I'm like, you're destroying your actual real life to get slightly shinier pixels in a video game. That's kind of insane.
Right.
So it's not I don't enjoy those things, but it's just there has to be a balance, right? You have to look at is this worth it? And in my case, I'm I can destroy this thing and get essentially write a check I would not personally ever be able to write to this charity. So to me, that's a great trade-off,
Oh yeah, and like we've talked about, especially being one of the first ones to kind of set the trend or be able to turn these virtual things into real money. I think it is really impressive that being able to raise that much money.
Yeah, every now and then I think is there a way to do this again? Well, I don't really have anything to leverage, but I keep thinking about it.
Maybe one day, right?
No, I'm very rich in EVE Online. Sometimes I think about I could, figure out a way to burn the stuff down, and it will probably make people upset, but
I don't think you can ever make everyone happy.
No.
Do you still play any TF2 ever once in a while or what?
I've jumped in and out before, I guess. I play thousands of hours of it. It's not and that's the thing too, right? If you look at my Steam account, it'll say 1100, or I don't have any hours, but actually at the beginning of TF2, that was before Steam tracked how many hours you spent in video games. So I played more, I'm saying that again, it goes so far back that, it's it can't even track the reality of it, which, no, I haven't really. I've jumped back and forth. I feel I kind of played enough, and I was always a spy main. Okay. And I feel in the early days, being a spy was very easy because people were terrible. And that's any video game. If there's a stealth class, it always starts super overpowered because people who are good at stealth abuse all the systems. But then over time, people are oh, I hear footsteps. Oh, I notice. Oh, this guy's not moving the right direction. You figure it out, playing Mirage and Apex or playing Sombra or any of that kind of stuff. So, I don't really, other classes are okay, but I never really got into them that much, and I don't really feel like playing things other than Spy too much.
While Wingspan may not play much TF2 anymore, he has a unique experience that may never be seen again. And while he is very modest over his past, I believe he was one of the first people to ever give in-game items a sense of legitimacy. Today, we see esport athletes earning millions of dollars and virtual items like NFTs going for even more. But in the early 2000s, I don't think any of us saw what would become of the gaming community and the massive success it is now. All thanks to people like Wingspan, who had bigger visions for video games, even before the rest of us did.